Where you going, nigga? Yeah, get it. You done came and peeked in here.
Yeah, I'm in the easy and shit.
Yeah, sit down.
I'm in the easy. He was up. What up? We in the chat.
This is his father, y'all.
We in the house. Y'all thought I was gone, huh? They thought I was out of here.
Y'all think we look alike, Cat?
Do they look alike?
He looked like his mama.
So, you know, I pray that it's just handpicked by Jesus Christ. 2, oh yeah, I'm dropping my 9-second trailer. That's gonna promote the fight April 25th. I'm actually super excited. It's only 9 seconds, child. Then I got a lot of snippets to promote the fight, promote the episode. I'm gonna start streaming. So give me a second. Give me like a moment to figure that out, how I'm gonna do it for referral. Cause now that I'm stronger, I got the logistics down. I feel comfortable enough to stream for referral, and you know. And then what else I got to say? What else I got to say? So there's 2 things: the announcements of the trailer, an episode, and we'll be announcing the fighter. So that's exciting.
Hold up, because this is one of those moments where the internet accidentally tells on itself. The kind of situation where timelines don't line up, locations feel a little too familiar, and suddenly everyone's asking the same uncomfortable question at the same time. Is Blueface really hovering around Stunna? And why does it look like Chrisean is throwing out warnings while Claressa's shield snaps like she just walked into the wrong movie? This doesn't feel like random celebrity noise. This feels like the kind of leak that wasn't supposed to leak. The kind of pattern people notice only after the screenshots start stacking. Fans are replaying posts like slow-motion replays, zooming in on backgrounds, matching timestamps, and whispering. That can't be a coincidence. Chrisean's tone shifts from chaotic to calculated. And when that happens, people stop laughing and start listening. Claressa reacting at all sends the whole thing into another orbit. Because when a disciplined champion looks irritated, you know something crossed a line. This isn't messy for fun, it's messy with tension. The kind of drama that makes reality TV look scripted and the Kardashians look like they're taking a nap. And the scariest part, nobody's denying it clearly enough that the first thing everyone noticed wasn't a statement, a rant, or a dramatic live, it was movement. Quiet movement. The kind that only stands out once people start comparing notes. Blueface wasn't announcing anything, wasn't addressing rumors, wasn't even pretending to clear the air. Instead, his presence kept lining up a little too neatly with someone else's timeline, and the internet has never trusted coincidence without interrogation. 1 location looked harmless, 2 looked curious, 3 looked like the start of a thread nobody wanted to finish reading. Stunna Girl's name kept popping up next to his in ways that felt accidental at first, until fans realized how often accidental was happening. Similar cities, overlapping nights, familiar backdrops sneaking into posts. Suddenly, comment sections weren't asking questions anymore, they were making statements with question marks attached. And once that shift happens, there's no going back. Because online, perception doesn't wait for proof. It just waits for patterns. Blueface's silence became the main character. No denial, no explanation, no y'all reaching. Just business as usual, which only made things louder. The internet hates unanswered questions the way cats hate closed doors. People started pulling old clips, not because they proved anything directly, but because they added flavor to the narrative. Past behavior suddenly felt relevant again, like history volunteering itself as evidence. Then Chrisean Rock entered the picture not by crashing the conversation, but by bending it. Her energy wasn't her usual unpredictable chaos. It was sharper, quieter, and unmistakably serious. When Chrisean jokes, it's loud. When she warns, it's subtle. That's how fans knew something was different. Her comments weren't long explanations. They were quick, pointed, and loaded with implication. The kind of words that sound casual until you replay them twice and realize they weren't casual at all. People immediately clocked the shift. Social media lit up with posts saying things like, "Why does she sound protective?" And that didn't feel like clout talk, because Chrisean has never been known for sugarcoating anything. If she's choosing restraint, that restraint means something. Her warnings didn't accuse, but they didn't comfort either. They hovered right in that uncomfortable space where truth might be sitting quietly, waiting to be acknowledged. As soon as Chrisean's name trended alongside Blueface and Stunna, the situation graduated from gossip to spectacle. This wasn't just about the artists anymore. It was about history, boundaries, and unresolved tension that never fully disappears, it just changes shape. Fans began arguing about intent versus impact, coincidence versus obsession, and whether public figures ever truly leave each other alone once the internet locks their names together. Then came the moment nobody expected: Claressa Shields reacting at all. Her involvement felt like someone from a completely different genre stepping into the wrong movie. Claressa doesn't do messy narratives. She does discipline, control, and results. So when she snapped back at the chatter, it landed hard. Not loud, not dramatic, firm. Almost irritated. Like someone brushing dust off their shoulder while asking why they're even being discussed. That reaction reframed everything. Suddenly, this wasn't just internet detectives spiraling for fun. People started asking why a professional athlete with nothing to gain would even acknowledge the situation. Her response carried "don't drag me into this" energy, which only made fans wonder what she'd seen or heard behind the scenes. When someone with no appetite for drama responds, it's rarely because they're bored. First reactions poured in from everywhere. Some fans rushed to Blueface's defense, calling it exaggerated, accusing the internet of forcing narratives for entertainment. Others pointed out that patterns don't lie, especially when they repeat across time and geography. TikTok filled with side-by-side clips, zoom-ins, red circles, and captions that read like true crime documentaries. Twitter turned sarcastic, brutal, and relentless. Memes compared the situation to reality shows that ran out of writers and decided chaos was the plot. The tension didn't explode, it stretched. Every new post felt like it might be the one that confirmed or denied everything, but instead it just added more questions. Blueface posting normally felt suspicious. Stunna staying quiet felt intentional. Chrisean's selective comments felt strategic. And Claressa's irritation lingered like a warning sign nobody wanted to ignore. What made it worse was the lack of a clear villain or hero. This wasn't clean-cut drama. It was messy, layered, and uncomfortable. Fans argued about boundaries, accountability, and whether obsession can exist without explicit confession. Old narratives resurfaced, not as proof, but as context. The past didn't accuse, it whispered. By the end of this phase, the internet wasn't asking if something was happening anymore. It was asking what kind of something it was. Curiosity had turned into tension, and tension into anticipation. Everyone sensed this wasn't the peak. It was the setup, the calm before the next wave of reactions, receipts, and fallout. And once that door opened, there was no chance of closing it quietly. Once the tension was set, the internet did what it always does when it smells blood in the water. It sprinted. The story stopped being about what might be happening and turned into a full-blown spectacle about how everyone felt about it. This was no longer quiet suspicion. This was public outrage dressed up as entertainment, and social media treated it like a season premiere. Every scroll delivered a new angle, a new hot take, a new person swearing they had the missing piece that would explain everything. Memes hit first, because humor is how the internet sharpens its knives. Blueface was edited into spy movie posters, lurking in shadows with exaggerated captions about coincidental appearances. Stunna was painted as the unbothered main character, walking through chaos without turning her head. Chrisean became the chaotic oracle, the one shouting warnings from the mountaintop while everyone pretended not to hear her. And Claressa Shields, She was turned into the fed-up adult in the room, the energy of someone who showed up to train and accidentally walked into a reality show reunion. Celebrity reactions poured gasoline on the fire. Not direct statements, but likes, follows, unfollows, and subtle comments that fans treat like Morse code. Someone liking the wrong post at the wrong time became a headline. Someone unfollowing someone else turned into a theory about sides being chosen. The internet doesn't need confirmation, it needs patterns. And it was finding them everywhere. Suddenly, this drama wasn't confined to the original names involved. It was pulling in anyone even remotely connected. TikTok became ground zero. Creators stitched videos together like conspiracy boards, drawing lines between screenshots, adding dramatic sound effects, and narrating everything like it was a leaked documentary. Tell me why this makes sense, they'd say, right before dropping a theory that made half the audience gasp and the other half roll their eyes. But even the skeptics kept watching. Because disbelief doesn't stop curiosity, it just wears a smarter disguise. Public outrage split into camps. One side insisted this was blown out of proportion. Another claimed it was textbook obsessive behavior hiding in plain sight. The arguments got heated, not because anyone had proof, but because everyone felt justified. That's the most dangerous kind of drama, the kind powered by belief instead of evidence. Comment sections turned into debate stages, with strangers defending people they've never met like personal friends. Chrisean's presence loomed larger in this phase. Her warnings started being replayed with new context, like scenes in a thriller that suddenly make sense once the plot thickens. Fans began saying things like, "She knew something," and that wasn't random. Whether that was true or not didn't matter anymore. Perception had already decided her role in the story. She became the one people believed was seeing the danger before everyone else admitted it existed. Claressa's reaction aged like a fine receipt. The more chaotic things got, the more her initial irritation felt justified. People replayed her words, analyzing her tone, noting how controlled yet firm she sounded. It wasn't dramatic outrage, it was annoyance, the kind you get when someone drags your name into nonsense that shouldn't even be near your orbit. That made her response feel heavier, like she was reacting to something real, not imaginary. Pop culture comparisons ran wild. People said the situation felt like a reality show crossover nobody asked for, like two separate series accidentally sharing the same universe. Others joked that this was turning into a low-budget thriller with high-budget egos. Some compared it to those documentaries where everyone claims they never saw it coming, even though the warning signs were blinking in neon the whole time. The sarcasm online was ruthless. Tweets joked that the drama had more plot twists than a soap opera marathon. Comments said this made celebrity breakups look like children's cartoons. The Kardashians caught strays again, because anytime chaos escalates, they become the baseline comparison for messiness. And yet, underneath the jokes, there was unease. Because the humor couldn't fully mask the discomfort people felt watching boundaries blur in real time. As the outrage grew, brands and collaborators started watching quietly. Nobody made announcements, but the silence felt strategic. When scandals hit this level, people don't speak, they calculate. Fans speculated about conversations happening behind closed doors, about managers advising silence, about people choosing distance without explaining why. Every absence felt intentional. Every delay felt loaded. Blueface's online presence didn't help. Posting like nothing was happening only fed the fire. To some, it looked confident. To others, it looked careless. Stunna's quiet approach was interpreted as strength by supporters and avoidance by critics. And Chrisean's selective engagement continued to fuel theories that she knew more than she was saying. The internet loves nothing more than a puzzle missing a few pieces. By this point, the narrative had fully escaped its creators. It didn't belong to Blueface Stunna Chrisean or Claressa anymore. It belonged to the audience. And audiences don't want endings, they want escalation. They want twists, reactions, consequences. The outrage became self-sustaining, feeding on its own momentum. Even people who claimed they were over it somehow knew every update. This phase ended not with clarity, but with exhaustion. The kind where everyone senses something is about to break, but nobody knows where. The internet wasn't satisfied, it was hungry. Hungry for fallout, for accountability, for the moment where someone finally says too much. And when a story reaches that point, the aftermath is never gentle. It's loud, lasting, and impossible to rewind on by the time the noise began to settle. The damage was already done. Not the kind you can point to with one viral clip or one reckless comment, but the slow burn kind that changes how people are looked at long after the trend fades. This wasn't about one rumor anymore. It had turned into a test of perception, and perception is brutal because it doesn't need proof to leave scars. Everyone involved walked away carrying something heavier than they started with. Whether they admitted it or not, Blueface's reputation took the sharpest turn. Even without a smoking gun, the constant speculation reshaped how people read his actions. Every future move now comes with a footnote. Silence feels suspicious. Humor feels defensive. Confidence gets mistaken for avoidance. That's the trap of unresolved scandal once the internet assigns a narrative. Escaping it requires more than time. It requires clarity, and clarity never arrives when chaos is profitable. Stunna Girl emerged with an unexpected kind of armor. Her refusal to feed the narrative shifted public sympathy in her favor. To supporters, her quiet became strength, a signal that she wasn't interested in playing a role written by strangers online. Critics still questioned her silence, but the overall tone leaned toward respect. In a culture addicted to oversharing, choosing restraint can look powerful, even defiant. Chrisean Rock's role evolved the most. Once dismissed as unpredictable, she suddenly looked perceptive. Her warnings aged into credibility for many viewers. People replayed her words not as drama, but as foresight. That shift matters because it rewrites how her voice is heard moving forward. When someone known for chaos is suddenly taken seriously, it changes the balance of who the audience believes next time something explodes. Claressa Shields walked away with the cleanest image, but not without frustration. Her brief involvement highlighted how quickly chaos can spill into spaces it doesn't belong. Fans praised her for shutting things down without theatrics. She didn't escalate. She didn't perform. She simply reminded everyone that not all attention is worth entertaining. In a drama-driven culture, restraint stood out like discipline in a room full of noise. Public perception hardened. Even as posts slowed and memes faded, the narrative lingered. This is the part people forget. The aftermath doesn't trend, but it lasts longer. Brands remember. Collaborators take notes. Audiences store impressions quietly. The internet may move on to the next scandal, but it never fully forgets the last one. It just waits to connect it to the next headline. Relationships, at least in the public eye, felt altered. Not necessarily broken, but reframed. Trust becomes harder when rumors take root, even if they're never proven. Every interaction is now watched through a different lens. Supporters read loyalty. Critics read damage control. Neutral observers read fatigue. And fatigue is often the clearest sign that something hit closer to home than anyone wants to admit. What made this saga unsettling wasn't the chaos, it was the lack of resolution. No dramatic confession. No explosive denial. Just distance, silence, and shifting energy. That's how real-life scandals often end, not with answers, but with discomfort. And discomfort leaves room for future chapters. Because when questions aren't closed, they reopen themselves later, louder than before. The internet already moved on to fresher mess, but this story stayed bookmarked. People will reference it casually in future debates, pulling it out like context whenever names cross paths again. That's the long shadow of public drama. It doesn't scream forever, but it never fully disappears. In the end, this wasn't about stalking, warnings, or snapped reactions alone. It was about boundaries, perception, and how quickly narratives spiral when silence replaces explanation. It showed how fame magnifies suspicion and how audiences fill gaps with imagination. And most of all, it proved that some scandals don't need explosions to be destructive. They just need time, attention, and an internet that never stops watching, now don't play innocent like you just stumbled into this by accident. If you made it this far, you were locked in. You felt the tension, you clocked the side eyes, and you probably picked a side whether you admit it or not. So let's hear it. Drop your take in the comments, because quiet viewers are the most suspicious ones. Was this all coincidence blown out of proportion? Or did something feel off from the jump? Say it with your chest. Smash that like button like it owes you rent and just changed its phone number. Hit subscribe like you're securing your seat before the next scandal breaks, because you already know it's coming. This channel doesn't wait for headlines to cool down. We talk about it while everyone else is still pretending not to refresh their feed. And don't forget, drama doesn't come with warning labels anymore. It drops suddenly, spreads fast, and disappears just long enough to come back louder. If you want the breakdowns that cut through the noise, the sarcasm that says what everyone's thinking, and the stories that make reality TV look rehearsed, you're exactly where you need to be. Scandals don't sleep, and neither do we. So stay tapped in, stay curious, and stay ready, because the next chapter is always one post away. This is Scandal Spark, where the mess is loud, the commentary is ruthless, and the truth always hits harder than expected.